Good evening, all. Got another track guide for. This is going to be an update for one I've done past. There's just some things I've probably learned since then. I don't know if I'm faster since I last recorded. I couldn't even tell you what times I ran. This is meant to be preparation for the IMSA 12 Hours of Sebring that'll be later in the month of March. Trying to get this out a few weeks ahead of time. I'll walk you through slower the first lap, and then I'm gonna do 2 laps after that had some errors but a little bit faster, and I'll kind of just point out along the way errors that I made where time was lost. It's definitely a very tricky track. A lot of places that you can lose time. The multi-class can get pretty heated. So without further ado, I'm gonna lead you down here. This is right before start finish line. Show you these 3 laps here. They're all 8-second bracket. Things to keep in mind. See, the track temp is 102 Fahrenheit. I couldn't tell you what that is in Celsius. That is pretty warm. I set the session to 130 the date of the race, so this will probably be as hot as it gets. Anyways, so we're headed here towards turn 1. I'm gonna try and pause minimally here. Alright, so you want to get as close to this wall as possible. Obviously don't get too close. There is some like goofiness here where the wall kind of starts bending back, and you can see it here in the shadow. That's going to be my lifting point where I start braking. The braking itself is fairly light, but if you kind of keep going straight here and you catch this wall, I have seen it launch cars before. You don't want to have that happen. Right about here. See how much brake I have, about 50%. I'm going to ride the brake, trail off of it. Next thing I'm going to look for is this one cone up on the wall. You'll see it as you go driving by, but that's really where I start. I'm staying out of the throttle all the way to that point, and as I'm passing it, that's where I start easing back into the throttle and try and get back to full throttle. If you do that right, it'll get you a pretty good launch off the turn. You want to get as close to that inside wall as possible. You don't get right next to the wall. You could push wide on exit, and you don't want to have that happen. You'll go dirt, scare the living daylights out of yourself. Alright. Okay. I'm already back in the throttle a little bit here, but trail out. Next mark. Sometimes I stay in 4th here. If you carry enough speed through here, you can hear me kind of get on the rev limiter. Here I will shift up to 5th gear. But I must do all my braking here at the 3 cones. Go down to 1st gear. Kind of start turning this patch, the light patches. I'm going to try and avoid all curbs here if possible. Or elevated will upset the car and trigger your traction control. I'm going to try and avoid them. I'm going to tell you now, I do not avoid them perfectly. Down to 1st gear, back in the throttle, up to 2nd gear. The end of this curb here is where I start my braking. I leave it in 2nd gear. Aim for, I'd say, a little bit of a later turn in. You want to try and get as close to the curb to the inside as possible, and then exit out wide. The curb kind of has like a little bit of a slope to it on exit, and then it flattens out. You want to try and aim for the flattened part of it. So you can see how it's kind of elevated here, raised, and then it flattens out over here. Traction control's kicking in here. Down to the slowest turn, the hairpin. Nice and easy. 4 cones, which is the first line on the track. Where you're gonna brake. This is a pretty heavy braking zone. Try and do all your heavy braking in a straight line. Start releasing the brake pressure as you start your turn in. You're gonna get it to down to 1st gear, and you're gonna try and get up on the rumble strip there on the right to really catch your apex, but try and keep the tires out of the dirt. I missed the apex a bit there. We're gonna get up to 4th gear here. I don't think you get to 5th. Alright, you do get to 5th. Yep, 5th gear. Again, your cones. The safe place is the 4 cones. You can actually kind of go between the 3 and the 4 cones though as you get more and more comfortable with it. You're going to go, again, all the way down to 1st gear here. That's just going to give you better drive off. Down to 1st gear. Get your tires across the yellow line, but see the slope of the curb you want to possible. And then on exit, you'll start applying. You can see me applying some throttle here, but where the track changes texture, you want to try and be full throttle. Get the power down completely as you're crossing that track surface. Avoid this curb to the inside here. It's very easy to catch, and then there's another one at the inside of the next little part of the bend. Both of them will upset the car pretty heavily, and this is a flat out section, so you'll bit of speed if you do manage to hit them. Here I'm to the inside, and I'm kind of aim towards you can see the strip here. The rough braking point is probably these 3 cones, maybe a little bit before that. If the track's cooler, you can maybe go a little bit further, but as you're passing that 3 cones, you're going to get down to 2nd gear, kind of aim to get your left sides to the curb on the outside. Second gear. Again, I'm trying to limit the pause in here, but there's a couple places you really need to catch. You can see this curb here to the inside is bad news bears. That they want to get pretty much where that yellow line is. I catch the curb a little bit there. It was very minor. It's going to be a flat out section. I think 5th gear. Yeah, we're 5th gear here. 3 cones. I'm going to brake again. I'm going to go down to 3rd gear. If you kind of really screw up your line through here, you'll end up going down to 2nd gear. 3rd gear, you got to kind of maximize your speed that you're carrying before it bogs the engine down. So you're going to want to try and get your tires up on this curb, but you don't want to jump over it, because if you do jump over it, when you come back across, there is a bit of a bump there, and it horribly upset your car. I have an example of it a couple laps back where I really hit it, completely upsets the car. So your 3rd gear through here, you're going to angle out really wide here. As I'm crossing over, and there's a little bit of a dip down here as you get off the rumble strip, you're going to start applying some brake. You're going to go down to 2nd gear, and you try and get up on the curb, the inside, and then exit out the entire part of the curb. So I don't get up on the curb like I wanted to. Exit out really wide. I even get tires out onto the left there. Ideally, you keep them off the dirt, I should say. If you get them out into the dirt there, it will spin on you on occasion. I've seen many people die into that inside one. You don't want to have that happen. Alright. Sunset Bend. This turn is intimidating, to say the least. It is extremely bumpy. Not a lot of great vantage points, and it's kind of tough to figure out when you pick the throttle back up. Somewhere about the 2 cone as late as the final cone here at the end is when you're going to start your turn in and applying some brake. We're not talking about a ton of brake. You're probably talking 40-50%. I peaked a little bit higher than that. But you're going to just ride the brake all the way through here. I'll go all the way down to 2nd gear. You can also use 3rd gear. think the time difference using second gear is huge. Down to second. About here is where I'm picking up my throttle. So really bumpy turn. The line through here is kind of obscure. You're cutting in towards that wall, then you're running a little bit wide, and then cutting in. Pretty late apex. Getting onto the throttle and exiting all the way out. And head back to line. Alright, so that was a slow lap. I'm going to let the next couple laps play through at full speed. I'll point out stuff as it happens. Like I said, some of these laps are faster than that one I just showed you, but that was an actual clean lap. This one I think is clean, except I run a little bit wide here in turn 1, which was an off track. It's ever so slight, but that was an off track. Down to first. I get up on the curb a lot better there though, compared to the previous lap. Bit wide there, that was not an off track though. Bumps are really, really bad to the inside there. That's why you want to try and run a little bit wider. Traction controls kicking in there. Got a little bit too sideways. Let me get the power back now. I think I end up hitting the curves to the double curves to the left side here before not wanted to. Could be wrong. No. That one I hit, which wasn't too bad, but you want to avoid that. Traction control kicked in there as well, which just losing you time when that kicks in. Speed there. Last thing I'll show you here is going through that kind of like third and fourth, the last turns. When I was talking about what happens when you jump over that curve, kind of what happens when you manage to. That'll be the last thing I show. Hopefully I can find it fairly quick. I apologize. Yep. So you can see I managed to get the tires over this. When it bounced back, it just hops the car. And it's she wrote. Alright. But if you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that, let me know.